After the departure of Colin Trevorrow as director of Star Wars Episode 9, fans have been wondering who will step up to direct the closing installment in the newest trilogy. While numerous directors have come to mind, including many newcomers, a familiar face has been selected to direct this film. His name is JJ Abrams, the director of Episode 7, The Force Awakens. But is JJ Abrams the right choice to direct this film? Well, in this video, I'm going to break that down. Make sure to subscribe to this channel and enable notifications so you can see all of my content right away when it comes out. Now, JJ Abrams' selection as the replacement director for Episode 9 has come at the pleasure of some fans and disappointment of others. While some fans really enjoy his filmography, some have soured on him in the days since the Star Trek reboot. But one of the most polarizing aspects of his career was in fact his directorial debut within the Star Wars universe with Episode 7. And while The Force Awakens was a big commercial success, there are still many fans, particularly of the extended universe, who didn't like it and preferred George Lucas's continuing vision of Star Wars. I can understand both sides. While I believe Episode 7 was good overall, there are still valid criticisms, such as the film taking much of its structure from A New Hope, building up some characters like Phasma only for her to be easily disposed of, and of course Abrams' meta references and fan service moments, which there are certainly more than a few of. However, I think the film set itself apart enough from A New Hope to be a good movie in its own right. I think it did a good enough job handling the characters, and the references weren't anywhere near as excessive or annoying as in Abrams' Star Trek reboots. So while there are valid criticisms, I think Episode 7 is better than all of the prequel trilogy as well as Rogue One, which I may even put Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith over. It isn't as good as the original trilogy, but that's a very high standard to aim for. Now, I do like Abrams as a director overall. He made my favorite Mission Impossible film, Number 3, which was actually his first feature film. I liked Super 8, which was a fun film, and I was also a fan of Alias while it was airing. The only thing I'm not the biggest fan of is JJ's Star Trek reboots, which, despite being commercially successful, really miss the idea of what Star Trek is supposed to be about. They're basically Star Wars movies with the Star Trek license, but considering he went on to direct Star Wars, I can't say that's a bad thing. We've had worse Star Trek movies in the past, such as most of the Next Generation movies, which also often miss the point. But overall, Star Trek and even Into Darkness still serve as an action-packed sci-fi popcorn fest, which if they weren't Star Trek related would probably be pretty enjoyable. But that ties into Abrams' best ability as a director. He knows how to shoot and direct action. His movies are almost always exciting, with bits of tension and drama thrown in the midst. I was never bored during Mission Impossible 3, Force Awakens, or even the Star Trek reboots. Abrams has the ability to keep you interested in the movie and engrossed in action and excitement, even if you don't necessarily like the direction he's taking it in. But does this make him the right fit for Episode 9? I think the answer is yes. While I think perhaps Rian Johnson would be good to return for continuity's sake since he's directing Episode 8, Abrams directing the opening and the close of the trilogy will provide that better than a totally different director coming back in, and with the current turmoil inside Lucasfilm with the departure of 3 directors over 2 different Star Wars films, I think it makes sense to go back to the well with Abrams. Sure, there's other directors out there who Disney can take a risk on, like Matt Reeves, Denis Villeneuve, and Neil Blomkamp, and who could bring a different perspective to the trilogy. However, Abrams is the safe choice to continue the franchise in the current direction, and deliver at least a fun entry. Other directors with their own interesting perspectives can come in and work on perhaps the next trilogy, or further spin-off films set in the Star Wars universe. There's more than enough variety of tones or stories minorly connected to the main storyline where they shouldn't be too creatively stifled from studio interference. But those will have to wait for another day, because now it's JJ's turn to have another crack at this franchise. And I'm sure we're all patiently awaiting what path the Star Wars franchise will take in the future.
Yeah, and you better subscribe, enable those damn notifications.